Hi, I'm Lee Knott and I lead the SMB business for HP in the UK.
My name is Glenn Willihan and I'm the SMB Director here at Microsoft.
My name's Zap Aobang, I'm the General Manager, Advanced Solutions, Ingram Micro UK.
My name's Nick East and I'm the CEO of Zinstra.
So I think there are a number of agenda items for an SMB. I think if you agree that data is the lifeblood of an organisation outside of the people, I think keeping that data and information secure is a number one agenda item. I think having that data available to employees wherever they go, so the whole question around mobility, how people access that data, I think is very high up on agendas. And of course, they need to access it when they want. So reliability of infrastructure clearly, I would say, is also very high up on an agenda. There are some tactical issues. Products go end of life, of course, and when products go end of life, you end up with all sorts of security risks. So I think that's a key agenda item for an SMB organisation. And having the strength and the depth of skill to deal with that in an organisation, the IT people, clearly an issue for SMBs. And I think keeping up with the trend, we're here today and we're talking about cloud, hybrid cloud, on-premise, off-premise, that whole where do I get my information from, I think is also very high up agenda item on SMBs.
I agree, and I think just going on the data piece as well, Gartner ran a study a couple of years ago and analytics and BI came out as one of the top priorities for SMBs. So not only where do you put your data, how secure is it, how available is it, but how do you use it as well? So those tools to be able to enable an SMB to take that data and use it to their competitive advantage, I think is extremely important.
Yeah, I could just pick up on the point about resourcing as well. I think one of the biggest challenges compared to larger enterprise is precisely that SMBs don't have enough IT skills in their organisation, and very often those dedicated IT skills, even if they have them, are very stretched. They're very busy just keeping the lights on. So being able to keep up with the pace of technology change is very challenging, which can lead to these issues of sustaining software or technology that's perhaps end of life. So I think that drives a lot of the priorities inside the SMB organisation, a critical lack of IT skills.
When we talk about IT, if you just look at how we are phrasing our conversation today, it's very much from a technology standpoint, from a technical standpoint. But actually, you need as much understanding around the business need. What are the process innovations that we need to address? What are the actual talent acquisition challenges that we've got? What are the, if we're trying to achieve competitive advantage, how do we achieve that with IT? In many cases, when it comes to IT in the business, it's very much run in a siloed mode. So IT does its own. We need it to access certain information. We need it to secure certain aspects of our systems. But actually, how does it help marketing? How does it help finance? How does it actually help our operations? That whole understanding and integrating IT and business is probably one of the biggest challenges, I would say, facing SMBs today in the market. Yeah.
So back to the resources, of course, our SMB customers don't have the same access to vertical skilled people as large enterprises. So I think it's important that we as vendors engineer products that understand that need. So for example, HP, we have Just Right IT, which is a set of products and solutions aimed at simple management, simple solutions that are easy to use, and actually bolt very nicely into maybe a hybrid environment where a user can log on to an on-premise application, but actually where appropriate, seamless to that user can go out into a cloud environment, and that very much is I think the prevalent, or what will be the prevalent trend around hybrid IT.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Lee. And a recent study we did into SMEs just last year, actually 600 SMEs, security came back as a concern. So a lot of SMEs are managing their IT in-house. A lot of them want to keep their business critical and line of business apps close to them. And at Microsoft, we strongly advise that they do that, but they leverage the cloud in a hybrid environment. So they keep a server on site, they keep access to all of those line of business applications, but then leverage the power, the flexibility and the scale that the cloud gives them.
Well, I agree, and back to that hybrid environment, people have concerns around the data, as you've just talked about, but you can have your data on site, but actually served through applications that don't necessarily have to sit on that data infrastructure and can be in the cloud. I think it's the model moving forward.
And I agree entirely. I think the challenge again comes back to having that sort of heterogeneous, that hybrid environment, which is becoming the standard in larger enterprises, but in an IT resource-constrained environment that you have in an SMB, how do you deliver that? And I think it's all about striking the balance between simplicity and capability, so making some pragmatic choices about what's important to the business in their local environment and what they can leverage in a public cloud environment. So that's a process of standardizing, of simplifying what is going to be in an SMB's IT environment, allows them to maximize the IT resources that they have.
So I think the flexibility of this hybrid approach also allows businesses to have a different financial model. So for example, when I want to operate or open a new office, do I need a whole new infrastructure, or can I just leverage, instead of spending lots of money on a new hardware, can I just add to my CapEx expenditure with a cloud or a hybrid provider? So I think it gives that flexibility and matches the expansion needs potentially of that business.
I think so, and that's probably prevalent in the minds of a lot of SMEs right now. Obviously, with a lot of end of support coming on platforms such as XP, Server next year as well, that it's a good opportunity for them to refresh their infrastructure at the same time, but that is a large capital outlay. Obviously, if you can leverage a managed service provider and that hybrid environment, you can manage that cost over a period of years.
Yes.
And get predictability from that cost as well, so understanding how the cost scales as the need scales.
Yeah, so I referenced the study that we did last year actually, and it was really looking into sort of how SMBs are adopting cloud services, what cloud services they're adopting, and really what their perception of cloud services is going forwards. And it's quite interesting that a lot of people are already on a cloud service, potentially don't realise it, whether it's email or they're just using some hosted backup or something like that. And actually 2/3 of those that we surveyed are already leveraging those types of cloud services. Yeah. The next natural step is obviously productivity suites, things like Office, and we're seeing a huge uptick in Office 365 as a result of that. So really, and I'd be interested in hearing what you guys are finding as well. We're seeing the cloud business at Microsoft grow exponentially, and the demand primarily coming from SMEs in that space.
Yeah, I agree, and the hybrid approach actually meets I think those needs that you've just talked about, where actually you might want your email in the cloud, or as you get bigger, you may want to bring that in-house, but you serve HR applications or finance applications in the cloud. But this hybrid approach allows you to have a platform, a managed platform inside, where actually it doesn't matter where that application sits. And you can decide, once you've got that platform, you can decide, is it internal and on-premise, or do I go to the cloud? But through one single log-on potentially, with the right solution. I think hybrid really does meet those needs.
You're right, Lee, and the point you made on the log-on is critical, really. I think, that at Microsoft we strongly advise people to keep a server on site. Using Windows Server in conjunction with 365 gives you that. It gives you single sign-on, it gives you role-based access, it gives you better governance as well. So that covers the compliance issues and the data sovereignty issues that you were talking about as well. So we strongly advise customers to consider cloud, but not wholeheartedly, and that's really what we're seeing, that transition to a hybrid environment.
I completely agree with that. I think the concept of keeping control from a security point of view over user authentication, user credentials, but integrated to cloud applications makes total sense. And I know Cloud Industry Forum statistics were showing that I think for most SMBs, more than 70% of SMBs, any new project they'll consider cloud services. But I think it's also true in every survey I've seen that most small to medium enterprises have already some form of hybrid environment, and it's their intention to continue to have a hybrid environment. So I think whilst cloud services adoption is very high in small to medium businesses, I think ultimately we're looking at a hybrid model.
Okay, so with all this talk about cloud, what is the future of on-premise IT? I think it's fair to say that, in fact, I saw a study from the Cloud Industry Forum that 44% of SMBs will never put all of their infrastructure into the cloud, which I think is interesting. And I think it stems from a number of reasons. One, investment protection. I have an infrastructure already on site, and I don't want I want to get the most out of that infrastructure. There are certain applications that I've written for my business, and they can't be housed in the cloud. And I think also there is some reticence around attitude, people's concern around security of data, credentials, logging on, etc., means that actually in a lot of cases on-premise is the right solution. And I, for one, don't think that moving everything to the cloud is the right solution, by the way. And I think there is that middle ground, which we talked about a number of times now, which is this hybrid environment. So I think on-premise is here to stay for all of the reasons I've talked about. But I do think that as businesses expand and we come to end of life of products in particular, a hybrid approach may be more of a tailored approach for certain customers.
I think to an extent we can have quite an old-fashioned view of what on-premise means. I think the sort of cloud-orientated view of what on-premise means, it means it's cloud integrated. It means also that it's cloud managed. It doesn't require somebody to come and nurture and repair that on-premise capability. So I think you can actually get the best of both worlds. You can get the performance, you can get the security, you can get the control, but you can get it as a service, cloud managed and cloud integrated. So I actually think we need to rethink the terminology of on-premise, because I think that the future sees a very different form of that on-prem IT capability. I'd even go so far as to say we shouldn't just be thinking about applications in that context, that there are applications that sit on-premise and there are applications that sit remotely in the cloud. I think the future applications is actually more distributed. There are applications which will be hybrid in nature. And they will leverage the local LAN performance and security and data on-prem, and they'll leverage the economics and the sort of big data capabilities of large cloud environments. So I think we need to reconsider, both from an application infrastructure perspective, what we see as being on-premise and what we see as being in the cloud.
Interesting that. So you see applications, single applications being served from both on-premise and in the cloud environment.
Absolutely, and in fact, I think we've already alluded to some of those applications now. Identity is a very good one. So you should be able to, when you're mobile, when you're on the road, you should be able to access your public cloud as a service capabilities from a single sign-on perspective. But perhaps the credentials and the authorization of that are being held securely in your on-premise environment, integrated to the cloud and managed from the cloud. So I think most of the analysts, actually most of the industry, have now moved from the point where everybody was viewing public cloud only as the future, that actually hybrid cloud is here for the foreseeable future, and quite possibly is going to be the end state of IT. So, what does it take to have a sustainable hybrid IT environment for a customer? I think it's that balance between simplicity and capability. In a larger enterprise, perhaps there are more IT skills that are able to customize the environment. I think for an SMB, you've got to find that right balance. What is it that's important to differentiate my business? Which services should I be focused on and configuring and customizing? And which should I take a simple blend of on-premise and remote cloud capabilities in the environment? So I think it's important to pick the right technology vendors and the right points of control to view the capabilities in the round. And then there's a lot about transparency of those vendors. In the end, we're dealing with a heterogeneous technology environment and a heterogeneous commercial environment to source those. That can be quite complicated in its own right. So you need to find the right integration points for all of those capabilities that you're bringing together in the environment, have a trusted supplier to be able to support them, and have transparency about the SLAs that all of those capabilities are going to deliver. I think you have to look at both the technology, the hybrid technology that's going to support the small to medium business, but also the business relationship. And that's why we feel that the SMB can go to a trusted advisor who can buy from the channel, can buy from Ingram with a technology solution that's an integration of Microsoft, HP and Zinstra intellectual property that has a nice transparent set of SLAs behind it and can support that partner.
Yeah, and I think ultimately what we're trying to achieve here is that the SME, the end customer, can really just get on with their core business and not worry about their IT infrastructure as that becomes more complex. Outsourcing that to a solution such as the Zinstra, HP, Microsoft combination through channel partners such as Ingram Micro and their channel allows the SME really to get on with what they do best.
Exactly right. Yeah.